Hello there and welcome to episode 3. We made it 3 episodes. Episode 3 of the Buckle Bomb Show. I'm your host, Bobby, and I'm so glad to be here to talk pro wrestling with you. I'm here with my broadcast partner, Anthony Roan. Tony, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, brother. I feel like, I'm just 2 weeks out from a 6-month journey to get to hear man on Raw.
I hear you, man. All right, we'll jump right into, and the biggest news of the week by far is Triple H announcing his retirement from in-ring competition. He was on Stephen A. Smith's show on ESPN Plus, Stephen A's World, had an interview with him, went through a lot in this interview. His retirement, the seriousness of his cardiac event. There weren't a lot of details about it. It was just this vague cardiac event that we all knew about. But he'd obviously been out of the spotlight for a while. Did you watch this interview? Did you? What are your thoughts on it and his legacy in the world of wrestling?
To me, this was one of the very few times where you got to see Triple H open up about his candid private life outside of the ring. Couldn't imagine the fear that Stephanie or his children had when you go through something like that, or the fear that he was feeling. So I could imagine that put a lot of things into perspective about where you're going next with your life and your career. And let's face it, man, unfortunately, you just had the passing of Scott Hall. I'm sure that opened some things up for him too. So, it's going to be a little weird not seeing that Triple H entrance every WrestleMania from now on. But, you can say the same thing with The Undertaker right now as well.
Well, sure. And time is undefeated in that way. There's always going to be an ending for everything. But, it's certainly when you heard him talk about his daughters and you see him get choked up, like that was... It's always very interesting when we have these larger-than-life personas that we grow up watching, and then something happens or whatever, and you get to see a little bit of the real human being behind, that big personality that we're used to seeing, and it's always a little shocking and a little sobering in this case, especially. But to hear him go through, from the fluid in his lungs that ended up screwing up his heart somehow, and him going through that whole story and just everything that's happened. Glad to hear that he's still been in the office and he's still been working hard and he's still dedicated to finding, the next big talent and all that. But obviously his in-ring career, and he said it, he's got a defibrillator right now in his chest. It'd be bad to get shocked on live TV. But we'll segue into a little bit. We'll talk about the legacy of Paul Levesque, of Triple H, both in the ring and outside of the ring in more recent years. Tell me at least your history as a fan of Triple H.
So my history of a fan of Triple H, I wasn't so much of a... let me rephrase that. I wasn't old enough to really remember Terror Rising, which was his character in WCW in the early 90s. But I do remember when they started airing the vignettes for Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the blue blood from Connecticut. Originally you just think he's this pompous asshole. And then eventually, he forms Degeneration X, Monday Night Wars. Then you go into the corporation, the corporate ministry, the two-man power trip. There was so much in this life of professional wrestling that Triple H was a huge part of, that it's really hard to just ignore the kind of impact he actually had on the wrestling industry. And I hope he can continue that being in the office.
Yeah, he... When I first started watching Triple H, like I mentioned to you last week, I got a little bit, even though I'm older than you, I got a little bit of a later start in wrestling. And I didn't really start watching until very early 98, maybe late 97. and I was watching WCW. I wasn't even aware that there was a whole different company. So it probably wasn't until somewhere probably mid '98 I realized there was a WWF as well. But I didn't care to watch it too much. I didn't know anyone that was on it. I was big into the NWO angle that was going on Nitro every week and Thunder. But I would watch on Saturday and Sunday mornings. There was Saturday on Livewire at 10 o'clock on USA, and then Sunday was Superstars. And it was usually hosted by Michael Cole. And it was just a clip show of things that they went through that week, maybe a couple of matches, particularly on Superstars. And I was kind of a goody two-shoes kid. I didn't curse. I didn't do any of that. So at that point, WWF was full on into their Attitude Era, DX doing their silly shit. So I would watch Livewire and Superstars on the weekends in the morning, and they would cut to these clips of DX doing, their over-the-top sexual innuendo and all this shtick. And I went, oh, that's horrible. That's gross. Why would anyone want to watch that? Me being the good kid that I was. I'll stick with WCW. It's way better anyway. But that was sort of my first, impression of Triple H. But of course, eventually, WWF just had a better product, especially going into '99. And eventually, I started watching more of it. Became a huge fan of The Rock, and his feud with The Rock through '99 and 2000. Them going back and forth with the title and the matches, and with Chris Jericho as well. One of my favorite WWF Raw moments ever is, I think it was in 2000 or 2001 when Chris Jericho had that match early on Raw with Triple H for the title, and Chris Jericho wins. And oh my God, it was a fast count by Hebner a little bit because Hebner had just gotten shoved and berated by Triple H, and that ended up being the reason to reverse the decision. But it was this moment where you get this, and Jericho was over. He may not have been over because he was a WCW guy in the locker room at that time. There was some heat there, according to people. But he was over with the crowd for sure at that point as a babyface. And got the biggest pop for pinning Triple H for the world title at that moment. And I think that's really the moment where people went, oh, Chris Jericho, he could be somebody in this business. Some people, higher up in the WWF at the time, when they saw that reaction. So that's one of my favorite moments of all time in wrestling is that moment with Triple H. And then, of course, through the years, I fell out of wrestling a little bit. A lot of his run with John Cena and Sheamus and some of the other things he did. I kind of started to fade away with Evolution. But what a great stable that was, and that was a lot of that was him. And then, of course, you come to later day when I got back into wrestling. There's a whole lot of stuff about him and CM Punk and all that, but it did create some good TV and some good promos in the ring. We can always discuss maybe who should have won that match. In WWE's version of the Summer of Punk, it probably should have been Punk rather than Triple H, but it is what it is. It was still some good TV and a good match. But then you transition in, not to mention his the end of an era match with the Undertaker.
Oh my God,
that was fantastic. That was my first WrestleMania back was WrestleMania 28 that I'd watched. You had CM Punk I was a big fan of and following that got me back into wrestling, him and Jericho. And then, the end of an era Hell in a Cell match with Triple H and Undertaker. And I went, what a match with Shawn Michaels refereeing. Classic,
that whole
amazing stuff.
To me, that whole saga that between those three guys, Triple H, HBK, and Undertaker, went back and forth for a couple manias there. And for what my opinions were, there's some of the greatest series of matches over WrestleMania, specifically in those guys' lives. I mean, just the story top to bottom. It's on the same level as the HBK. I'm sorry, I love you super kick, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And then of course, yeah, his behind the scenes role. Um, we all know how much he's had a hand in building up NXT. We can, the whole 2.0 stuff is another discussion. But being such a force for good in some of these wrestlers' developments and the talent that he's helped to cultivate. That has some of them have gone on to AEW, but they've all gone on and done some things in wrestling, and a big part of that is him. And I think that might end up at the end of the day, despite all the championships and all the things he's done in the ring. That at the end of the day, he's still got more work to do there. God willing, says the atheist.
Yeah,
I think that'll
personally.
be his. I think that'll be his biggest legacy at the end of the day in the wrestling business. For Paul Levesque, will be training the guys.
Yeah, originally, when NXT started as what we knew it before 2.0, I'll be the first to admit that originally I was like, oh yeah, let's watch, on a Wednesday night, WWE of Honor is what I used to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was, you had everyone coming in from ROH or New Japan. But damn it, at the end of the day, after Triple H let these kids sit underneath the learning tree that is Paul Levesque, you forget all about that because it completely builds an entirely new legacy for these people. For example, when Kevin Owens first came to NXT, I had a hell of a time not saying Kevin Steen because that's what I knew him as for years. Yeah. And then, the story between him and Sami Zayn, and then going on and up through the main roster. I believe he appeared with the NXT title to challenge John Cena for the U.S. Championship. I believe that was the story that they had going on there.
I mean, so.
all that from my understanding was Triple H pitching these ideas and giving them the creative freedom to actually run with it. And like you said, that is without a doubt, and going forward, because hopefully there's a lot more of him to give in that regard, going to be Paul Levesque's greatest legacy.
Agreed. All right. So from there, we will move on to the next topic. Coming up Friday night, or is it Friday night? I'm not even entirely sure. I know it's Friday, April 1st. We've got the Supercard of Honor for Ring of Honor. The first show back for Ring of Honor after the brief shutdown there. And the first one under the AEW Tony Khan umbrella. There's one match that I'm super excited for on this card. But the rest of the people on this card, I've either heard of, maybe, or I know nothing about. So we'll go through the card, Tony, and you're going to kind of sell me on the rest of this card. They've got my money basically for the one tag team match. But I want you to sell me on the rest of the card because I don't know a lot of these people, being the more casual fan that I am. So we'll switch on over here. And we'll talk about first this match it's up in the corner over here. This is the match that was most recently announced up here on the right. Josh Woods defends his Ring of Honor Pure Championship against Wheeler Yuta. So tell me about this match. I know Wheeler Yuta, obviously, from what's going on with him and William Regal and the what are they calling the tag team there with Regal?
Blackpool Combat Club.
The Blackpool Combat Club. Everything that's going on with him, I got to imagine that might play into what happens in this match a little bit. Maybe William Regal makes an appearance here. We'll see. But sell me on this match, and in particular Josh Woods, the Pure Champion. I don't know anything about him.
Let me sell you on Josh Woods. This kid is going to be big one day. Mark my words. So when Josh Woods first came into Ring of Honor, he was in a little bit of an odd couple pairing with a wrestler they called the Last Real Man, Silas Young. Silas Young is the last remnants of an Arn Anderson era. I mean, the dude just tough smash mouth. Well, his entire mission was to make a man out of Josh Woods. And over time, you see this story progression where it's just the ruthless aggression that just continues to pour out of him, but not in like the ECW, oh, I'm pissed, I'm going to go grab a kendo stick and cane the hell out of you aspect. No, it's essentially like a strong style, smash mouth, old school wrestling style that he now brings out. And between what he can do in the ring and what we've seen Willer Yuta do, which every week that kid surprises the hell out of me more and more. I think we're in store for one of those classic wrestling matches that you wouldn't expect. Like, this is going to be a sleeper classic.
All right, all right. Yeah, you've got me interested there. Certainly, I know the pure championship is a little bit of that intercontinental championship. It's that workers title for the up and coming guy in the company. So that's got me excited. Other matches on the card here, and I'll scroll down here. We've got Alex Zane versus Swerve Strickland. I have never seen either of these guys other than Swerve's introduction at the pay per view for AEW Revolution. Excuse me. But I don't know anything about him. Never seen him wrestle. I've never even heard of Alex Zane. So tell me about this match.
All right, so I'll give you what I can give you on this one because I myself am not too familiar with Zane. And Swerve outside of WWE, now coming into WW or AEW. I'm not really familiar with him either. But from what I have seen from Alex Zane, quick kid. There's a little bit of a remnants with him for like an old school. What's going on with my camera?
I don't know right now. Go ahead, keep talking.
All right. But there's a remnants with him that kind of has that young Jeff Hardy feel to it. So this is one of those matches on the card that, while I'm not familiar with either wrestler, I think it has the potential to be a fun, fast-paced match.
All right. And then we got Jay Lethal versus Lee Moriarty. I've heard of both of these, especially Jay Lethal. I've heard a lot of good stuff about Jay Lethal, but I know nothing about either one of them really as far as their in-ring work. I've never seen them. Tell me about this match here.
All right, well, I'm familiar with Lee Moriarty through AEW, where he's currently contracted. Again, young kid, up and coming, great look, great build. He was associated with the Factory and the Nightmare family and all that there for a little bit. Now, Jay Lethal, on the other hand, I have a little bit more experience with because that is actually where I went to go train when I wanted to become a pro wrestler, was the Lethal Academy in Tampa. Of course, we know the story, had a baby, had to pick. Kids win all the time. But Jay Lethal is one of those guys who, in my opinion, is a damn shame never got an actual run with a world championship that wasn't marred in some kind of weird controversy or anything like that. This dude should be one of the top tier, close to Mount Rushmore of pro wrestling, that I would say, guys. So this match right here, it's gonna be fun.
Gotcha. And then, of course, there's the match I'm incredibly excited about. The Ring of Honor Tag Team Championship match, the Briscoes versus FTR. I am a huge fan of FTR. They're my biggest, my favorite tag team in all of the world here. I cannot be more excited to see this match. The Briscoes are absolutely someone I'm excited to watch. I have never actually seen a whole lot of their stuff. I've seen clips here and there. I've seen their promos, and some of it's a little over the top with some of the country bumpkin stuff, but certainly very good. I love their stuff, and I've heard praise from people who have similar opinions to me on pro wrestling. So I'm super excited to see the Briscoes. And my favorite tag team, FTR, is just incredible. And we'll get to a match that Dax had with Punk on Dynamite that was fantastic. But what do you think of this tag team match for the Ring of
Well,
Honor championships?
I'm in the same camp as you, this is the match that when they first announced that they were bringing back Supercard of Honor, it got me really excited for it. Um, FTR is one of those tag teams. Again, much like in the vein of Silas Young, is by the bygone era of the Arn Andersons and Tully Blanchards. Guys who actually give a damn about the business, whether it be their AAA Tag Team Championship runs or everything that they've been doing in AEW now that they've actually gotten away from Tully Blanchard.
Yeah.
So you have that aspect of it, and then you have them going head to head with the Briscoes. Sandy Fork, Delaware represent. These dudes are the real deal, but in the same sense, a little bit opposite of FTR, but a tag team that actually gives a damn about the business. They love pro wrestling so much that they're going to do a triple threat tag team championship match in GCW, I believe the night before Supercard of Honor. So,
Wow.
I mean, yeah, they're going to come into this maybe a little bruised and banged up. So we'll see. But, this is one of those professional wrestling dream matches that get brought up.
Right.
In my opinion. So the fact that you're now getting all these chances with, it's like having a video game where you can create your own characters and just drop them into different situations. But this match in particular, it's going to be a barn burner.
Yeah, I can't wait for that one. And then we've got the main event, the Ring of Honor World Championship match. Bandito will be challenging Jonathan Gresham. I don't know any of these guys. I've heard of Bandito, but I don't know either of these guys really at all. So sell me on the main event.
Well, you got Bandito, who's that strong luchador. He has the power, but he has the agility and quickness, quick moving. And the storyline that they were building up with this prior to everything that had happened, with ROH taking a little hiatus and all that good stuff. I mean, then you have Jonathan Gresham. He, you may know his wife, Jordan Grace. Her name was escaping me there for a second.
Yeah. I follow her on Twitter. I know of her.
Daughter of Big Papa Pump. So Jonathan Gresham, he's one of those technical but strong dudes. Their styles complement each other very well in the ring from the few times I have seen them together. And we're finally going to get the end all be all Ring of Honor champion. So that alone, to me, is worth the price.
All right, so we got a stacked weekend of wrestling here. We got Supercard of Honor 15 on Friday it's at 8 o'clock. We've got SmackDown that night. We've got, of course, Rampage later in that night. And then we've got WrestleMania weekend after that, Saturday and Sunday. So we've got some fun stuff coming up and a lot of live streaming for you and me on Saturday and Sunday. We'll get to that announcement in a little bit. The next thing we've got here is something that we've been teasing for a little while. We didn't get to do it last week, but it was something we had a lot of fun doing. We're calling it the Heat Seeker, and we'll get to that right now. Ladies and gentlemen, what a show so far. We've got something special here for you up next. It's called the Heat Seeker. The Heat Seeker, well, is this gentleman right here, Anthony Roan. Tony, what have you got to say today?
I see. You hear that, bomb, Bobby? From the sportatoriums in Tampa to the armories in Georgia. From the bingo halls in Philly to the coliseums in Cali. Back to the gardens of New York City. The world wants to know, where's the Intercontinental Championship? For over 40 years, it's been a cornerstone in professional wrestling. Razor versus Shawn, Bulldog versus Bret, Orton versus Mick Foley. But come WrestleMania, if it doesn't appear on the pay-per-view, it's been one whole year since we'll see it on a pay-per-view. Now, God bless Ricochet and God love him, because where we were going before was a dark, dark path. Let me tell you something. That used to be what was the cream of the crop to the top. The last person that happened to was a guy by the name of Big E. You hear of him? Let me ring a bell for you. He got the old IC jetpack to day one. Brock Lesnar, fatal five-way. Didn't even take the pin. So unless WWE could put some more creative into the IC title and worry less about who's chasing Dana Brooke for a Waffle House clock, we're in bad ways.
Well, there you have it. Tony, certainly a heat seeker with that one. Bobby, back to you.
All right, there we go. That was a lot of fun to do. Certainly, you had a topic there that's worth discussion here with the Intercontinental Championship and how it's being used. So talk to me a little bit about what you think here with the Intercontinental Championship, how it's being used right now, how it compared to how it used to be used, and let's have a discussion about this.
Well, I would like to point out, as you know, when I wrote the original script for the first Heat Seeker, it was a few weeks back. At the time, we had Shinsuke Nakamura defending the Intercontinental Championship on television for the first time, and I think at that point it was like 4 or 5 months.
Yeah.
Finally dropping it to Sami Zayn. And to me, the Intercontinental Championship is one of the most prestigious championships in all pro wrestling. For over 40 years, it's been a cornerstone in the industry. And to me, it was terrifying seeing the path in which the Intercontinental Championship was on, because you knew at the time Sami Zayn was going into WrestleMania feuding with Johnny Knoxville. And in my opinion, we've seen what happens when you put championships on celebrities. You know, God love David Arquette because he came back from that. But, you know, could you imagine?
I don't hate the Arquette move as much as some people.
And look, I'm not saying I hate it because it brought a lot of eyes to the sport at the time.
And it was cross promotion with a movie that they had at the time and all that. But
in my opinion, though, there is something to be said about people who come in and get a push because of their celebrity outside of professional wrestling versus those in the back who have been riding the roads, hot dogs and handshakes, not getting that opportunity.
Well, in this case in particular, and we can go ahead and interrupt each other. This is going to be a little more of a heated discussion, hence the name of the segment. But that's what WrestleMania is. WrestleMania has always been, from the very first one, bringing in celebrity to help get more eyes on the product. This is our big event of the year. This is the Super Bowl of wrestling. We're going to bring in all the stars that we can that are willing to be here, whether they're promoting Jackass or whatever it might be.
Oh, absolutely. But let me ask you a question. It's the Super Bowl of pro wrestling, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know if Eminem got a Rams Super Bowl ring? Did Lawrence Taylor get a title shot? Did Mickey Rourke get the boxing heavyweight championship belt?
But this isn't sports. This is sports entertainment, buddy. This is about getting eyes on a product. It's a promotion. You got to promote it.
You're a part of that Jericho Appreciation Society, you know.
Well, we can talk about that. That's another discussion. But I mean, AEW is as much sports entertainment as WWE is. The pro wrestling in its truest form isn't either of these companies, in my opinion. But
absolutely.
But getting back to the IC title, I think part of the problem is, and hopefully, if the WWE sticks to its guns here with this unification match with the Universal title and WWE title, I think part of the problem is for the last couple of decades, you've got 2 world champions most of the time. You've got 2 minor champions with the U.S. title has just as big of a history attached to it, if not a bigger one than the IC title. It goes back a little bit further if you count the whole NWA legacy to it. Of course, the IC title goes all the way back to Pat Patterson in the 70s, and when he won a tournament in Rio de Janeiro to and suddenly and brought this belt with him.
Kayfabe, brother.
Yeah.
Kayfabe.
Which I always loved going back. I didn't get it at the time because I didn't know the history, but going back and seeing, the Stooges in the Attitude Era with Briscoe and Patterson, and seeing him, wear the shirt that says Rio de Janeiro on it. Now I get it, and it gets a pop out of me each time, more so than some of the other crazy stuff they were doing. But and then the legacy that it had from there, it always was, because the main event was always the big guys. It was a slower, slower match that was more about story, more focused on the story that they were telling. Whereas the IC title, especially when you get to WrestleMania 3 with Savage and Steamboat, what a fantastic match that was. It's hard to say it stole WrestleMania from Hogan Andre, because Hogan Andre. But that's exactly what I'm talking about here. That was a slower, story-driven match. And then you have this fast-paced, high work rate match between Savage and Steamboat on the undercard that was for a title as well. And that's been the legacy of the Intercontinental Championship. But once we get into the modern era, where you have so many title belts, it's hard. You've got 2 world titles now on every pay-per-view. And you've got tag teams, and now you've got women's wrestling too that has exploded in popularity and on the card, which is an amazing and good thing. But that's 4 world titles we now have in WWE that have to have a spot in each card. And then if you want to do another feud or something that doesn't necessarily have a belt, where is the IC title going to be? Like you said, it hasn't been on pay-per-view or premium live events in a while. Almost a year now.
It's going to be 1 year at WrestleMania.
And we don't know if Ricochet's even going to be on. He's not listed. Is he going to have a match for the IC title at WrestleMania? It doesn't look like it. Maybe they throw something out in the pre-show. Same thing with the U.S. title. Finn Balor's the U.S. champion. They've got him in the Andre Memorial Battle Royal on SmackDown, which is another thing we'll get to. Is that title doesn't look like it's going to be defended. Even though he's been in a bit of a program with Damian Priest, they've got something set up for him for WrestleMania if they want to do it. But there's nothing announced yet.
The unfortunate thing about it is, like we were alluding to, 1 year without being on a premium live event. But the sad thing about it is, though, man, is, much like you were saying, too many belts. We're eliminating a part of that problem with WrestleMania. Hopefully they stick to their guns with it. But then you have to look on the other side of it, where it's not just an influx of 2 main championships. You also have to look at what's going on behind the scenes creatively with WWE. The last couple of years, very well documented, them firing, releasing, or furloughing employees because of the pandemic, even though they're having record profits. I mean, in my opinion, it seemed like it was a lot of a scapegoat to, hey, we don't have anything for you guys, or, hey, this side creative's not doing that great. Maybe we can save ourselves some bucks by offloading them, bringing in somebody new for cheaper.
Well, I don't think there's any debate that they certainly had a loaded roster. You can debate whether or not they should have been, especially in a pandemic, whether some of these talents should have been released. That's a more ethical question. From a business perspective, they certainly had an overbloated roster that they needed to trim some of the fat off of, because they can't all be, even when you're running, and certainly during the pandemic they weren't, but even now that you're running house shows again, and even if you've got, you're doing 2 different tours in the same week, so an A town, a B town, maybe a C town, and a spot show here and there, you still have plenty of talent on the roster. Plus you've got NXT here doing their circuit in Florida that they do.
Yeah.
So.
But my point of it being was, it wasn't, the size of the roster. It was the amount in which they were going through people who work backstage. For example, back in creative, I believe there was, I want to say, upwards of 10 releases when that happened. and then they
Right.
bring people in for a short period of time that won't work out, and then they get released. My point is unless you're going to have the same people there, it's hard to tell long-term storytelling. So I think, the creative aspect of it is another thing that's been a huge issue, because it seems like we put everybody we have. How can we make Roman and Brock look like the biggest thing on planet Earth? And, oh, you guys are interns? All right, well, work on putting Kevin Owens in a bald cap and have him say what a lot.
Huh. Well,
Let's have Dana Brooke get chased around by 800 dudes because she owns a Waffle House clock. It seems like it's getting the short end of the stick. And in my personal opinion, like I said, if we can't do something with it, get rid of it. Get rid of it. I mean, literally, it is the one championship in the entire world that other companies consistently copy.
yeah.
Because of the rich history of it. I mean, for Christ's sakes, what was it? 4 or 5 years ago, New Japan unveiled their Intercontinental Championship, and it happens to look eerily close to the white one from back in the day.
And we just mentioned the Pure Championship, which is very much based on that. Yeah, on the legacy of the Intercontinental Championship and what it means as the workers' title.
So it's one of those things where have something for it, or just take it off TV altogether, man, because it's at this point it's so sad to put championship on somebody, and because you don't have something for that title, the person holding that title is now not going to get any kind of shine in the company.
Well, there's always been that saying, and it's usually used in reference to the world title, but I think it can be used here too, is that, the title doesn't make the man makes the title. And I think with these, specifically with the IC title and with the US title too, I think what they're trying to do is throw a belt on someone and say, okay, this is your champion, so he's the guy we're going with at the moment. And that doesn't necessarily work. You've got to have, even if the person's over, Ricochet or Shinsuke Nakamura, who's definitely over, if you're just throwing the belt on him and that's the story, he's the champion, there's nothing to it. You need a story to follow that up with, a good one, not just one that you're paying barely any attention to. So,
absolutely.
All right, we will move on from there to our quick jab segment. Quick jabs to the face, where we just talk about a few stories that weren't necessarily worth a whole segment. The first thing I want to do is talk about wrestling TV this week and things that stuck out to us or maybe to you. The first thing I want to talk about is the CM Punk and Dax Harwood match. My goodness, what a match this was. I made sure to watch it live, and it was the first thing on Dynamite that night. I didn't watch the rest of Dynamite live. I wasn't able to, but that match was one of the best live TV non-pay-per-view matches I've seen in a very, very long time. What did you think about this match?
I thought the match was incredible. The storytelling is there. You're feeling more and more sympathetic for FTR. They're bringing those AAA titles on television now, which they haven't done the entire time they've had it, which was weird to me. But
it feels like they're starting to build up FTR. They were kind of. It felt like before, and going back and looking at some of this stuff, it felt like they were kind of, as heels, they were kind of, certainly in the WWE, the Revival were goofs.
The icy hot on the balls, man.
Right, yeah. I was just thinking that too. But even in feuds as with the Young Bucks and stuff like that, when they were first brought in, they were kind of buried a little bit. Now to see them, we got rid of Tully. We're kind of turning face here, and this match helped tell that story with Dax's partner out there trying to cheer him on, but not actually interfering in the match. Okay, they're pure here. They love wrestling, and this is a great match, and and all that. Firing
Fun fact.
Tully. Go ahead.
Do you know who FTR's manager in AAA is?
In AAA, no.
Vicky Guerrero.
Really?
So she's in AEW with them. We might be seeing something.
Oh, maybe. I mean, Vicky's a heel still, isn't she? I mean, it's hard to see her being a babyface, so that might end up getting dropped at some point here.
I don't think that they're going to be heel or babyface, man. I think they're going to be that vigilante straight down the line like Stone Cold was.
Well, I mean, and it might be a different thing where on AEW TV they're babyface, but when they won't have Vicky Guerrero on TV with them on AEW, but in AAA they'll still be the heel for whatever tag teams they're facing in that promotion, with Vicky Guerrero there. But there's been this rumor. And I don't know if you've seen it the last couple of weeks, and it kind of stemmed from a promo that the Young Bucks said, and one of the Jacksons, I still can't tell them apart yet, but one of the Jacksons said something in this promo with FTR in a backstage segment, said something along the lines of, "You need the best" or something like that, and everyone went out and thought, oh, he's referencing Bret Hart, the best there is. And I'm like, I didn't feel that it was a direct reference to that. But it sort of spurred on these rumors that maybe Bret Hart could come in and be a manager for FTR. If that's a big if. I think that's kind of a far out there rumor. But if that comes to pass.
Not as far out as you think.
Yeah?
Bret Hart already has history with AEW.
Yeah.
I believe it was the first pay-per-view he was at. Just recently, if you look on AEW's Spotify page, they're pushing the theme song that they made for Bret Hart for that one-off appearance. And now that the company is doing the Owen Hart Memorial Tournament and has the rights to Owen Hart's likeness, I'm just saying,
that's
not
true.
that hard to believe.
Well, that's true, and you gotta imagine that Bret wants to be around for that. You know, I don't know if he has any sort of Legends agreement currently with the WWE, but probably not.
No.
So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see him on TV. Whether or not he'd want to get on the road even just for a weekly appearance. We'll see if he's up to doing that, if he's healthy enough to do that. Hopefully he is. The next little thing I wanted to talk about here is more Seth Rollins drama on TV, leading to what we hope might happen. Which we got some more news tonight or yesterday on Twitter about. But Seth Rollins and AJ Styles had a great match on Raw that furthered the story of Seth Rollins still not having a spot at WrestleMania. What do you think of these moments in the match and how it ended in a DQ with Edge coming in and whacking AJ Styles with a chair?
I have to say, man, this Todd Phillips Joker-esque personality that we're seeing as Seth Rollins right now is so enjoyable. The mind games, whether it was with Roman Reigns when he came out to the old Shield theme, to just the complete loss of cognitive dissonance where, hey, I know what I'll do. I'll do what you're doing. And it's getting to this point where you're just seeing a man hit rock bottom at the lowest form of desperation. And it's a great character, but let me tell you what, I am so happy Edge clocked AJ Styles with that chair to save that match for WrestleMania. Because I don't know if I talked to you about this on the show or not. I remember how big this match is for me. I'm a huge TNA guy from back in the day. And there was a point in time where, you know, the fantasy buckers out there, champion versus champion, AJ Styles versus Edge. This is going to be pretty big. But Seth Rollins, we all know where it's going. I'm just excited to see it.
Yeah, I'm not as big. I love Seth Rollins in the ring. I think he's a great, huge talent. I'm not a fan of the way his character's been. I'm not a fan of the way his character's been. It's way too over the top for me. I like some of it. Certainly, you know, doing the Shield entrance and all that was fun, and some of the other stuff he does. but it's just way he goes for it a little too hard for me, and it's just way too much. But to further this whole not having a spot on WrestleMania story, he did post this on Twitter, and I like that you'll see his profile picture has changed here too.
Has it?
Let me switch.
I
this
think I know
over.
the tweet you're talking about. I didn't see the pic. Yep.
But yeah, he's got this. He posted this picture of text supposedly from Vince McMahon about coming to his office tomorrow morning at 9:00. Which Adam Pierce is also in the comments here. Let's chat about this tonight.
I just love the idea that there's a possibility that Vince McMahon uses googly eyeball emojis.
But yeah, he's changed his profile picture to Vince McMahon, which is fun.
That's good shit.
But
please don't tell me this is gonna be a Vince McMahon versus Seth Rollins.
We do still have no, come on now. We do still have one night of Raw left tomorrow night before WrestleMania. Do you think with this here, do you think they'll actually maybe not debut Cody Rhodes tomorrow night, but do you think they'll actually announce him? Or do you think they'll still hold that off as a surprise for WrestleMania?
So here's what I think. And this is just me fantasy booking this out. Hopefully Cody retains the rights to his AEW theme song. The band that performed it is escaping me right now, but they also wrote Dolph Ziggler's theme and the Miz's theme and Seth Rollins' original Burn It Down theme.
Gotcha.
So with that being said, hopefully Cody still owns the rights to it because he's the one who got them to make that song for him. Because Cody's old AEW or WWE run was so long ago, you wouldn't remember what the song sounded like. That wrestling has more than one royal family plays. And then, it just further drives home the point that Cody's going to come out, end the show. Don't even show Cody. Just let them know that's what's coming. Maybe,
yeah. Tease it for sure. Maybe announce that he will be there but not actually show them. And that, what you said there, that'll lead us into our next little quick jab here, was the report from WrestleVotes, and I've got it up here on Twitter. They're reporting that two very high-profile people were adamant to the boss that if or when Cody Rhodes arrives, he should be exactly what he was in AEW. Presentation, ring gear, theme music, pyro, all of that. The visual impact of the American Nightmare crossing the line is significant here. So as you're pointing out, if they can get the theme music, no Smoke and Mirrors theme song, which they would, I think would be a mistake to use that anyway, even if they weren't able to use this. I think this report's legit. I think it's right, wherever it's coming from. I do think it's smart of them to use as much as they can, if they can use all of it, or, Cody Rhodes has been pretty smart about keeping his copyrights.
Yep. And if you know anything about WrestleVotes, they have a phenomenal track record with reporting news or rumors that have accuracy to them. Bring Cody in, give him the whole Homelander gimmick, but really push the heel side of him this time. Man, that's going to be over like Rover within the company.
Well, he's going to get such a huge pop. He's certainly not going to be a heel for Mania. Rollins is the heel.
No, absolutely not.
But after a little bit, maybe, yeah, we'll see. But yeah, bringing in his AEW American Nightmare persona as opposed to the dashing Cody Rhodes or certainly Stardust would be what you want. What would make the biggest impact here would be bringing over his current iteration of the character that you've been watching, not just on AEW, but through the indies before that, and his progression into, if suddenly he shows up as dashing Cody Rhodes again, we're all going to roll our eyes. Oh, here's WWE doing their thing. This is going to be something, it's going to be a shot across the bow, almost like a Monday Night War deal. This is the Cody Rhodes that we've been watching for the last year, 2 years on Dynamite is now on WWF TV.
Yeah. And for what it's worth, everything from Bullet Club to ROH Cody to AEW Cody, that's been a character that you can get behind. God forbid he comes out in that Stardust suit at WrestleMania. But
eventually he will.
Oh,
at least for a show, they'll play it up in a story somewhere, and he'll have fun. And it'll be fun, and we'll get a kick out of it, hopefully.
Absolutely. But with that, though, the most over Cody's been is what Cody has got himself over on himself. And that's without the direction of WWE. So why would you not take the chance, have him come in as the gimmick that has him where he is today, and just let him roll with it for a little bit? You could turn him heel next night on Raw, but have him attack somebody that he used to be close with. I don't even think there's anyone in WWE anymore that he's still close with to get that progression. But at the same time, and now it's a whole new crop of wrestlers that we're going to get to see him interact with, which is another reason to be excited for it.
For sure. There's a lot of matchups that we're all going to be super excited to see, including Seth Rollins here coming up, hopefully at WrestleMania. I don't know if you saw my face while you were talking there. I was thinking about the Stardust thing, and I said, oh, yeah, they'll throw it on him at one point just for fun. I had this thought about a thing that they could do that's really stupid, which means there's a good chance they'll do it. If they were to do some sort of split personality thing, where you have the American Nightmare showing up and doing his thing, but you also have Stardust doing another thing, and it's kind of a wink to the camera, and never the two shall meet. But
shut up, because that's bad karma, and it's gonna get to somebody somewhere, and they're gonna fucking like it. It's gonna be like some weird interdimensional trip in the goddamn Rift storyline. Fuck.
They'll even do maybe they'll do like a Three Faces of Foley thing, right? You'll have Cody Rhodes with the mask, the dashing Cody Rhodes. You'll have the American Nightmare, and you'll have Stardust, and they'll all appear in a segment on screen together before the new one, before Stardust is the last one to come out. And
please, for the love of God, even have
someone, the Triple H analog.
For the love of God, please let him super glue a caterpillar above his lip for the dashing Cody Rhodes part of it too. No, let's stop talking about this. It's now we're putting bad energy out in the world, and this is what's gonna happen.
Now your mind's running. Oh my God! Wait a minute. What if we do this and do this? And hey, Bruce Pritchard, we got an idea for you.
Tell Conrad, give us one of those deals while you're at it too.
All right, man. The next thing we can talk about here, Shad Gaspard, who tragically lost his life out in the water a couple of years ago, in 2020, I believe. He was out there with his son. The rescuers came up to him, take my son, save him first. And unfortunately, they were never able to get back to Shad, who lost his life. He is going to be the Warrior Award recipient here at the Hall of Fame. What do you think of this announcement and of Shad Gaspard?
So, as you know, I'm a father, and you would like to believe, as a parent, any parent would do what Shad Gaspard did for his son. But the difference between me thinking it as a father, because I know how much I love my daughter, and him actually having the courage as the parent to know that this is going to be the last thing I ever do in my life, and actually do it. In my opinion, I think Shad Gaspard deserves way more than the Warrior Award.
For sure.
I know this is supposed to be something in memorial to Shad Gaspard, but if you really want to memorialize him, and look, I'm an Ultimate Warrior fan, but that dude has a lot of skeletons in his closet, especially with things he's said. Rename the award. Make it the Shad Gaspard Award.
I don't necessarily have a problem. He's had a lot of skeletons, and certainly some more and more have come out. Certainly the Dark Side of the Ring episode on him, which I haven't seen yet, but I know they had his ex-wife on there and some of the things that have come out. I get that, but certainly rename it or don't, this part of the and for WWE's perspective, let's put it that way. They're talking about the character of the Ultimate Warrior, maybe not Jim Hellwig, but the character of the Ultimate Warrior that was on their screens and what he personified. That's the Warrior Award.
Well, when you
might
do it like
might
that,
be parsing things, but sure, that's what this could mean. And certainly in the Hall of Fame, it's good to have this. You can debate the realness of the WWE Hall of Fame, whatever. But this has been a good thing that they've always done. Of course, starting with the kid that died of cancer. I'm blanking on his name right now.
Connor the Crusher.
Connor Michalik.
That video promo that makes me fucking cry every
time I see it. Every time I see it, yeah. Every time it comes up in my memories or whatever, yeah. But this is certainly a good thing for the Hall of Fame, and something that's good to have in it. It can, I think the last one they did in 2019, because we've had the pandemic, they haven't been doing the Warrior Award, was, if I'm not mistaken, was one of their longtime workers in the office, but who had done such good stuff, they wanted to recognize her. Someone that no wrestling fan would know of, but was a longtime employee of the WWE.
What? I thought the last one was Eric LeGrand.
Maybe it was the year before, but I know they recognized a woman who worked in the office, who had set up, one of the things she was doing was she set up the, and you think of John Cena and all of his work with Make-A-Wish, she was the one that set all that up. And so they let me see if I can find here real quick. But go ahead and keep talking about Shad here for a second. And
I mean,
Warrior Award.
One of the things that drew me back into wrestling, because I'm not going to lie, in the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era, much like you did, I had a little bit of a dip out with paying attention to what was going on. Right. But then when they paired up Crime Time and John Cena for that little feud they had with JBL, where they were coming out spray painting his limo and all this awesome shit that they had them doing, I truly got back into wrestling because of that, and then you look now as a whole with what JTG, or now Jay the God, has been doing outside of WWE. And then you had what Shad Gaspar was doing. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Bobby, but he was doing a lot of like philanthropist stuff, wasn't he? I
believe so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and by all accounts, he's just one of those guys who is a stand-up of an individual as you could possibly be. And like I was saying before, man, it's one thing to say it as a parent. It's another thing to do it as a parent. This dude absolutely deserves to be immortalized by WWE. And, hopefully, fingers crossed, knock on wood, when they open up that actual physical Hall of Fame in most likely Orlando.
Hopefully, right here. Yeah.
He deserves to have his own place in there for sure.
You're right, Eric LeGrand. I'm not finding the lady I was talking about. Joan London was in there, which I don't remember her getting in. The woman I'm talking about, maybe it was before. I remember them honoring her, but I guess it wasn't for the Warrior Award. But regardless, that's exactly what I think the Hall of Fame is good for, is something like this right here. And hopefully when they do have a physical one, if it's here in Orlando or Stanford or wherever they decide to put it, it'd be, hopefully their best wing. I think you'll have your wrestlers and you'll have your contributors, and then you'll have the Warrior Award recipients, and that'll be the one that might be sometimes hard to walk through, but certainly deserving. And then we'll move on to the last quick jab here that I have, and that'll be the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, taking place not on WrestleMania, but on the SmackDown the Friday before, which it did last year as well, if you remember. What do you think of the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal taking place on SmackDown rather than on the show? A Battle Royal that was designed specifically to get more people on the Mania card. And now that you have 2 nights of WrestleMania, it's not even on the card.
Well, real quick before we go into that, I just want to say, remember when everybody was like freaking out about New Japan doing Wrestle Kingdom for 2 nights in a row?
Mm-hmm.
And everyone said WrestleMania should do that to get more people on the card. You knew back then when everybody was screaming for that, WWE was going to find a way to put more bullshit, more fluff, and more filler into a WrestleMania show. And they're still continuously screwing over so much talent. And not just talent in the WWE, keep in mind. Because WrestleMania weekend used to be massive for independents to run shows. You know, for example, last year, WrestleMania was in Tampa, but I ain't got the scratch like that. Fortunate enough, I got to go to a couple of the indie shows that were happening around Tampa.
And that was big because that was kind of the startup of the indies again. So go to WrestleMania because after the pandemic, the ones that survived through that, because they're not able to run shows.
Yeah.
So the ones that survived that WrestleMania weekend, at least for that weekend, were able to have a show with some fans at the very least. Here in Tampa.
You know, you have these indies that make their entire nut for that year in most cases.
Yeah.
Put in a really weird situation where, oh shit, we're losing half a Saturday because WrestleMania is 2 nights now. And it's one thing if they were doing it to get more stars onto the card, that way they can all get that WrestleMania payday.
Well,
but you have some.
To piggyback before you go there, to piggyback off what you're saying about the weekend as a whole for indie wrestling and for all that, there was always a dearth and so many things going on at once. And during the day, like you would have Mick Foley and JR would be out there doing their one-man shows. You'd have, now you've got ad-free shows and Conrad Thompson's, productions out there doing their live podcasts and live shows and things of that nature. Plus you have all these different indies doing their shows. Tampa is a mecca for wrestling. So, certainly there's a lot of indies here. When we had WrestleMania last year, that can do different things. There's always going to be more than usual going on. Of course, you've got SmackDown on Friday. We've already got SmackDown, Rampage, and Supercard of Honor all happening pretty much at the same time Friday night. So it's the whole week leading up to it, I think. You got Raw on Monday, Dynamite on Wednesday. When is the Indies really going to have a chance to go? It's got to be during the day, no matter what. Saturday was kind of the day I guess maybe they had before, but even then you had the Hall of Fame Saturday night that everyone loved to watch.
Well, from what my recollection of it was last year, because I was fortunate enough I went to 2 GCW shows.
Okay.
Thursday, and from what I've noticed on the card, because you had things like Pancakes and Power Drivers and Effie's Big Gay Lunch and Joey Janela's Spring Break, and then Josh Barnett's Bloodsport all going on that same weekend. I went to Bloodsport on a Thursday night. All right. So now you're branching shows that are finishing later out more into the work week, which is going to create some problems in the long run. Unless, well, maybe not, because most wrestling fans are flying in from out of state because,
Sure.
It's a destination weekend.
And
then,
to be fair, branching them out and extending it a little bit earlier into the week is good for the city that it's in, because it's going to generate more revenue, more people in town, more people buying and spending things. Good for the economy of that town, for sure.
Absolutely. But, and then I went to Planet Death by GCW that Saturday morning. So you're still running the shows on Saturday, but I remember when they used to run shows late into Saturday night. Fuck, some were even running shows right up until WrestleMania started that Sunday.
Yeah.
But, now you just have to kind of find that filler time to put all your shows on.
Right. And there's still, when you've got WrestleMania access there, all during the week, and then you have the surrounding area wherever the stadium and wherever they have access and all that stuff. You're always going to have all kinds of shows running nearly 24/7 throughout the day, just to walk away from access. So I think you'll always have those indie shows, and so many of them going on at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that big of an issue, but certainly going into this, I mean, as much as we say, hey, it's all about getting more talent on the WrestleMania card, we've got, we're about to do a WrestleMania preview. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 announced matches, including the KO show Steve Austin thing for WrestleMania for the 2 nights. 12. And that does not include whatever might happen with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins. So that's pretty stacked, even for 8 hours at minimum that this is going to be.
You know, I hate to say this, and this might be a very unpopular opinion, but we all know professional wrestling is, I'm not going to say fake, it's scripted.
Right.
And they want you to believe that all these dudes are badasses and larger than life, and they're legendary, like Andre the Giant. And the human Andre the Giant, from all accounts, is a legendary human being.
Yeah.
So you give him an honor, posthumous honor, of naming a battle royal after him. You're awarding somebody a statue of this legendary, larger than life human, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like when you're doing something like that, it needs to live up to that person's expectations of who they were as a human. But then you're throwing a bunch of mid-carders in the ring and putting them on the start of WrestleMania, then their pre-show of WrestleMania. Now they can't even bother to put them on anything associated with WrestleMania. So we're just going to call this SmackDown WrestleMania.
Well,
you see how they're dropping the ball and it's just falling slowly and slowly every year.
Look, again, this is a promotion. You've got to promote WrestleMania. It's your biggest show of the year, and you want to spread it out. You want to tease people. You want to get people excited for WrestleMania. Here, we're going to give you this match that's normally WrestleMania. We're going to throw it on SmackDown Friday before to get you excited for all the stuff all the stuff that's coming on the actual show. Here's a little taste. Here's a little piece. We're gonna promote it as WrestleMania on Friday on SmackDown, and give you one of the WrestleMania matches here. So promotionally, it actually makes more sense to a certain degree. I can get behind it and see it.
Are they not doing the Mae Young Memorial Battle Royale this year?
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, me neither.
I've heard nothing. Now, what do you think about Finn Balor being announced as a part of this match and him apparently not defending? We talked about this. We touched on this a little bit with the IC title talk, but not having the U.S. title, not having Finn Balor on the Mania card, at least as of right now, when he's in a program with Damian Priest, why have him do this instead of a match on the card? Which they could still do. He could be a part of this on Friday and then still have a match, say, on Sunday for the title. But it's not announced yet.
This very well could be like that Hail Mary saving grace where maybe Damian Priest is going to screw over Finn Balor, which will lead into a match at Mania. Time will tell. But for all intent and purpose, they really built it up like they were going to do a Damian Priest versus Finn Balor at Mania. Yeah. And now here we are where we're a week away and unsure of what's actually the full scope of that. My opinion, just let it as it is. We're at the point now where you don't have the IC title on Mania. Why put the US title on Mania? And you're pretty good at stipping 2 of your mid-card belts. And let's build up a program where Damian Priest's demonic side of him's really driving something home inside of Finn Balor. And then next premium live event, have it be Damian Priest versus the Demon Finn Balor.
Well, that'll be what, WrestleMania Backlash is probably the next event after Mania,
And possibly.
if they're still calling it, WrestleMania Backlash like they did last year.
Hell, they change up everything so often. I mean, now it's like the horror show at Extreme Rules. Now it's going to be Clown
Right.
World at Backlash. It's hard to tell, man.
All right, now who do you think? Looking at what they've got promoted, who's in this here? Who do you think is going to win this thing? Certainly Finn Balor, Shelton Benjamin, and Jinder Mahal are the biggest stars on it, other than maybe R-Truth. Who do you think could win here?
You'd love to say R-Truth because he's been around for so long.
Yeah, but if
he's kind of built himself into where he is now, and you really can't take him seriously.
Sure.
I mean, although I do love when he comes out and he was like, "Oh wait, I'm not in the Rumble. All right, cool, I'm out." Like, no, that shit's hilarious to me. But
he's got his niche. He's found his nice little niche in WWE, and they love it to use him that way. So hey, power to him.
It's got to be Finn, though, right? It has to be Finn. There's no other reason why you'd put the U.S. champion in there and try and make such a big deal out of it.
I mean, they haven't used it this way. Certainly, Cesaro's not even in the company, who's the first winner.
Yeah,
but
neither is Big Show,
right? Which who didn't need it. If the idea is to use this to put someone over, give them a thing to win to put them over and catapult them forward, like a little mini King of the Ring kind of deal, which they've proven this isn't that anyway, then Jinder Mahal maybe, but he's already been WWE champion. He's kind of been buried since. His run as champion wasn't all that great. Shelton Benjamin's been around forever. There's no need to push him up. Finn Balor is a former Universal Champion, even if it was just for a day. He was the first one. Like, do you want to continue to put him over and have him win? Certainly, as probably one of the smaller guys in the match for a battle royal, maybe.
I mean,
I certainly wouldn't want him to. I mean, this is a match where it wouldn't hurt him necessarily to lose with so many people in, but. I don't see anyone else here that the WWE would be like, oh yeah, we've got our eyes on this guy. We want him, maybe Damian Priest.
Yeah, but you want to talk about somebody who never actually got their comeuppance and needs a little bit of something to take him back to the next level. You had him win the Universal Championship against Seth Rollins. And then, ironically enough, that buckle bomb takes him out of action for a little while. Mm-hmm. And he hasn't even sniffed the world title since then, unless you count NXT.
Yeah.
So if somebody needs it, it's going to be Finn, right? Like that's just who it has to be.
If you want to catapult him into the main event again, for sure. Though the main event's pretty stacked right now. I don't think this isn't going to help him do that. If he wins, even if he wins, it's the Memorial Battle Royal. It's not even on WrestleMania. It's on SmackDown now. So I don't know. It is what it is. It's just at this point a promotional tool. Hopefully they're still paying these guys as if it's a WrestleMania match rather than a SmackDown match. I hope. But we'll see. All right. That'll do it for the quick jabs. For the rest of the show, and it might take a minute here, we're going to be talking about WrestleMania. We're going to do a little preview and go run down each of the matches and what we think might happen for WrestleMania here. I do want to do a quick note, a programming note here. Next week, on Saturday and then on Sunday, we'll be live streaming during WrestleMania. So me and Tony will be here at my house. We'll throw a camera on us and we'll be drinking some beers and having some fun watching the show. So join us. I think we'll start live streaming probably at 7:00 each night. That's probably sounds about the right time we'll do it. If that changes, I'll throw that out there and let everyone know. But 7:00 Saturday and Sunday night, we'll be live streaming WrestleMania and giving our live opinions and thoughts of what's happening and going on. So we'll start off here. We've got Saturday night, and the first match we'll talk about will be the women's tag team title match, 4-way tag team match with the champions, Queen Zelina and Carmella. And let me find it here. They've got this thing all screwed up. Queen Zelina and Carmella are the champions versus Sasha Banks and Naomi versus Natalia and Shayna Baszler versus Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan. Certainly one of those matches again to get a lot of the girls on the card. What do you think about this match? Are you excited for it? Who do you think's going to win?
The way they've been getting pushed and shared around by WWE, and they're showing it on television, they're showing it on their socials. How does Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan not win this match?
I agree.
You're gonna have Sasha Banks and hopefully again Naomi get pushed into more of a women's champion picture here coming after WrestleMania. Carmella and Queen Vega, they're not getting any kind of help from this title run they're on right now. They're the wrestlers that really don't need that title to help further their characters. I mean, you already had Selena Vega as Queen Selena, and Carmella was doing like reality YouTube shit. So it just, in my mind, it has to be Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan going on as champions.
They're the only two that even strike me as remotely an actual tag team in this, because I haven't been following the women's tag team scene because it's WWE. They don't give a shit about their tag teams.
They don't give a shit about the women.
That's always been Vince McMahon. He focuses on the singles. Tag teams to him are a promotional tool for the singles. So you'll throw two big stars together to make a tag team. And that looks like what they're doing here. Like Sasha Banks and Naomi together. You've got Natalia and Shayna Baszler together. Some of these are very disparate personalities that you're just throwing together. Queen Zelina and your champions, Queen Zelina and Carmella. Like Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, at least there's a thread there, and they're working very well together on TV, what I've seen. So I do think they'll go over, I hope. And hopefully they can make something of the women's tag team division, and rather than just throwing people together randomly for matches here and there.
Just random question about this. Does this not have a mixed match challenge vibe to the way they threw these teams together?
A little bit, though the mixed match challenge ended up being kind of fun.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, though, the story is like, none of these people actually really have history together. You have, the last I've seen is Shayna Baszler training Ronda Rousey on social media. Sasha Banks just coming back. There was the little tease that Naomi was going to be bloodline with her husband and Roman, and that never came to fruition. They're like, shit, we just dropped that. We're going to shove you and Sasha together and just put you guys in a program. Go along. Shoot. Like,
yeah. Well, you know what? I'm just noticing they've updated the graphic here. When I put this list together, the graphic specifically just said Saturday. And if you look here, it says 2-night event, Saturday and Sunday, which means they might be. And I pointed out before the match, before we started recording, that all the women's matches are on Saturday, not a single one's on Sunday. So maybe they're switching this around. There's always going to be some back and forth and where things are going to be at on the card and on what night.
Card subject to change.
Absolutely. This originally was on Saturday. Now it could be either night, it looks like. But it was promoted originally as Saturday. The other one we've got here, the next one is Drew McIntyre versus Happy Corbin is Saturday night. That still says Saturday. What do you think about this match? Any interest at all?
None. It's just, in my opinion, man,
Unfortunately for Drew McIntyre, who I love. Yeah. And I like Corbin too, but it's just.
Oh yeah, I don't get me wrong. I love Corbin. I love McIntyre. I don't know a whole lot about Madcap Moss, but just for example, Corbin's trajectory in this entire thing. He was King Corbin, became a broke slob,
Mm-hmm.
won money in Vegas, wants to make a movie about his life. Tell me where any of that fits in to anything.
He's done these weird, from one extreme to the other, and he's been as good as he can be in the role. Like I said, I like
Yeah.
Baron Corbin, but and the roles they've given him. But they've tried to give him he's sad Corbin, and now he's happy Corbin, and it's okay.
And then
all right,
now you're gonna pair him in a program with.
it's WWE over the top stuff, yeah.
But it's not just that though. You have two guys that should be working towards the top of the card. You know, Baron Corbin famously being punished and losing the title because Vince didn't like the way his body looked because he put on weight. You know, you have McIntyre, who at one point in time was told by Vince McMahon that he was the chosen one. And for what it's worth, I think that these guys should be working near the top, and now we're just again another silly filler match.
It's more of a filler match, yeah. Probably one of the matches that goes in between. McIntyre will end up on top. You know, it might come after a big, heel win somewhere on the card. You know, maybe the Usos beat Shinsuke and Boogs, and then you throw in this match, and McIntyre comes out on top in a quick little 8-minute match or something like that. The next one on the card, we've got, speaking of the Usos, the SmackDown Tag Team Championships. The Usos as your champions versus Shinsuke Nakamura, and let's see if I can find the graphic for it. Shinsuke Nakamura, there it is, and Rick Boogs. Excited for this match?
Very excited. As you remember, the Usos program with the New Day, you put them in a spotlight match and they're going to give you everything they have.
Mm-hmm.
As far as the outcome, it's going to be the Usos. Shinsuke's just coming off a long IC title run with no defenses. Mm-hmm. And it's actually what catapulted this tag team to be a thing somehow. So yeah, Usos retain. Maybe we're going to get a Boogs Shinsuke tag team run down the line where they're going to win the championships. But for now, the bloodline, the whole story there, it's too good. Maybe Roman ends up losing. Usos retain. That's what fractures the bloodline there. I mean, there's so many ways that this can go, but there's no way in hell it's not the Usos.
The Usos definitely will. I believe will definitely win this. I think the bloodline, and of course we'll get to the Sunday's main event, but I think the bloodline comes out of this on top all the way through. I think you want to end with them strong. I think the Usos go over here. But I'm excited for this match. The Usos always put on a fun tag team match. Shinsuke Nakamura is, of course, amazing. I know nothing about Rick Boogs except for Pat McAfee going Boogs anytime Shinsuke comes out. So, I'm excited. He's got a good look. I'm excited to see what he can do. The next match we've got on Saturday is another tag team match. Rey and Dominic Mysterio versus Logan Paul and The Miz. Any excitement for this match? This is another one of those celebrity matches.
All right, so I'm going to get a lot of shit for this. I am genuinely excited for this match.
Good.
So, I don't know if you've seen any of the footage or anything like that, but Logan Paul actually has been putting in the work trying to learn the sport.
Oh, yeah.
He's also a high school and collegiate wrestler, amateur wrestler. Some would argue that he has just as much experience in wrestling as Dominic Mysterio. Him and The Miz play very well off of one another. Unfortunately, I don't think he's found all of his charisma yet in terms of a character, because sometimes he's like a wet piece of cardboard. But this has potential to be more than what we're expecting. So again, if you have low standards, you can't be that disappointed.
Well, certainly with Logan Paul, like you say, as far as his personality, he needs to get bigger for wrestling as a wrestling personality if he wants to continue to do that for sure. But certainly with his outside the ring stuff, he can certainly be a lightning rod. The Miz has grown on me over the years. I used to, not be able to stand him. Certainly as a character, you love to hate him still all these years later.
Yeah.
But as a performer, he's gotten better and better and better. And the Mysterios are just Ray, and to see Ray as a kid watching Nitro and loving Rey Mysterio Jr., to see him and now his son, and to be able to go out with your son and wrestle with him and have a good time and do these matches, that's got to be fantastic. And I love watching them together. They're doing an awesome job. Dominic's been fantastic under the guidance of his dad, and I'm sure in the WWE umbrella, he's been getting quite the instruction, I'm sure, in the training. I'm optimistic about this match. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I would imagine, because they've been teasing, like with the Miz and Logan Paul, at least what little I've seen of the story, is that Logan Paul's been like, "Whoa, Miz, why are you being that big a dick? Whoa, what's going on here?"
Yeah.
So I would imagine either Logan Paul goes full heel and him and Miz end up on top, or Logan Paul ends up turning on Miz at some point or kind of walking out, and you get a win for the Mysterios here, and Logan Paul will be with the Mysterios at the end of the match.
Well, it's going to go a little bit deeper than that, because if I'm not mistaken, it's been reported that Logan Paul signed a not like years long term, but a long term enough to tell an entire story kind of contract with WWE.
So he'll be sticking around.
Yeah, he's going to be sticking around for a little bit, is my understanding.
So then maybe the first thing I said, where he goes full heel with The Miz and they end up on top of the Mysterios, and then they can continue that story going on through WrestleMania Backlash and all that stuff. All right.
Yeah.
All right. The next match, another women's match, the Raw Women's Championship match. Becky Lynch will be defending against the EST, Bianca Belair. Your thoughts on this match? You excited about it?
This is going to be a match that has a lot of potential. I think the build-up for it's been fantastic. Who can kick the shit out of who the worst each week is the hero weapon. All this stuff that they're building into this story about why there's so much bad blood between these two. So, yeah, I think this match has the potential to be, again, kind of like we were talking about earlier, one of those sleeper classics where maybe you're not expecting much out of it, but I think at the end of the day, this is going to be one that lives on in WrestleMania history.
As long as this gets the time, because as fantastic a match as this could be, and probably will be, this is actually ends up being a little bit lower on the card, especially even on Saturday. You've got the star power of Logan Paul and Steve Austin. You've got Ronda Rousey and Charlotte Flair up top. So this might end up being middle of the card on Saturday. But if you give it time and you make it one of the premier matches, this can certainly be maybe what steals the show, is certainly for night one. And I'm certainly excited about it. Who do you think goes over?
That's a toss-up to me. There's various reasons for why I think each one of them could potentially go over. But then you think about who needs it more right now. That would be Bianca Belair, definitely needs it more. But are Seth and Becky turning into the new Triple H and Stephanie at the WWE backstage? That's why I'm so torn on this. I can't pick a winner, but Bianca, fuck it. I'm going Bianca, lock me in.
I think Bianca goes over too. Though certainly Becky still might be their biggest, certainly their biggest female star and one of their biggest stars in the company for sure. So maybe you keep her. She's on this heel run right now. Maybe you keep the title on her for a little while longer. But Bianca Belair, I think, deserves another run with that title. the way it ended before with the returning Becky Lynch, and
Right.
people harped on it at the time, like, oh, Bianca got screwed. But if it leads to a championship run post WrestleMania with Bianca Belair, that can really be something. Return matches, Mania Backlash, all that stuff. I think Bianca could and should win, and that's my prediction. If WWE's smart, we know they're not. Nah, I'm kidding. Kind of. The next thing we've got on the WrestleMania card for Saturday is the KO show, the big confrontation between Steve Austin, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Kevin Owens. What do you think's going to happen here?
They both go to throw a stunner at the same time. They kick each other in the breadbasket, and they lay there winded and can't get up. No.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. You know, they're trying to make this into something more than what we're getting. By the way, I thought Kevin Owens coming out of Stone Cold was absolutely brilliant.
I mean,
he swerved the crowd twice with the Stone Cold music.
Yeah.
Can't catch a beer worth of shit.
Though, to be fair, like if you're, and I usually love the whole, teasing them with the music and whatever, but usually the one you're teasing with that music comes out later on the show.
Yeah.
They didn't hear it. Ooh, man, if you're in that crowd and holy shit, Stone Cold's here, and you saw the crowd react, oh my God, there are people crying in the crowd. And then, of course, out comes Kevin Owens. The only thing I can compare this specific one to with the music is Shawn Michaels back in the day before Bret Hart returned. This is like 2005. And I didn't watch it live, but I've seen the video since. And they're in Montreal. So the crowd's just throwing, and I think Shawn was a babyface at the time, but the crowd's just throwing so much heat at Shawn. And of course, Shawn's leaning into it, and they even play Bret Hart's music, and Shawn's like, ah. And then he starts laughing, I got you. So great. Such a heel thing to do. So fantastic. Yeah, I loved it.
I mean, let's be honest here. We know that this is just going to be throw a stunner, drink a couple beers, flip off the crowd, walk out. It's not going to be much more than that.
I
might get like a.
I think it'll be a little bit more. It's obviously not going to be a full match.
It's going to be like a 3-minute Donnybrook.
I think that's what WWE wanted, a full match, and Stone Cold was like, I don't care how much money you throw at me. I can't do a full match. I refuse to do it because of I'm not going to go out there in my gear. I'm not going to go out there and do anything called a match because it might screw with my legacy. But
do you think he saw those?
I can go out there and he can do a brawl. No, that certainly that could be part of it. But he could go out there and brawl with Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is an incredible talent and can certainly help Steve Austin look good. And they can throw a couple of stunners back and forth and whatever, and then you end up with Steve Austin on top, of course, dousing Kevin Owens in beer, and, maybe you even get a middle finger or two, and Stone Cold's music plays, and that might actually be what ends WrestleMania Saturday night. Certainly, if the next match that we're talking about is originally supposed to be the main event for Saturday night, but there's rumors that they're switching it up, and we'll see what happens. It's always, again, card subject to change. They might end WrestleMania Night 1 with this, which will definitely end up with Steve Austin over Kevin Owens, because I think you end Night 1 happy.
Yeah.
So, do you agree? You think that's how it, whether or not this is last on the show, do you think Steve Austin ends it on top?
I think Steve Austin ends it on top regardless, because you're going to want to protect the legacy that is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Well, sure, but, there's also the whole, giving back to the business pal kind of aspect where Kevin Owens is there every day, and he's, you want to put him over. You don't think that's worth, maybe having him go over Steve Austin here in some way, shape, or form?
Yeah, I could see that being a thing, but let's be honest. I mean,
I certainly think Austin would be willing to do that, but
yeah, but since his retirement, what has every one of his WrestleMania appearances been for the most part?
right.
Glass shatters, stuns a new guy, drinks a couple beers, leaves.
Right. But again, this is being promoted as something more than that. Whether or not it ends up being something more, that's why I think it's certainly going to be a back and forth at the very least. But I do believe we'll see Austin on top at the end. And that'll take us to the next match, what may or may not be the main event for night one of WrestleMania, the SmackDown Women's Championship match. Charlotte Flair versus Ronda Rousey. Excited for this match?
Very excited. Now, let me be completely upfront, and I don't know if this is too much of a spoiler, but a heads up for the next Heat Seeker segment after WrestleMania weekend is going to include something about this, because if their main event gets pushed for something like the KO show, it's going to show WWE doesn't give a shit about women's wrestling. Now, as far as whether or not this match is going to be worth watching, I mean, there's all the outside drama of it, the supposed real life tension between the two, the mouth service that was going on when Ronda was actually with the company, and then when Ronda left for a little bit. So there's a lot of interesting ways to look at this. Now you're going to have Ronda's first WrestleMania back with the company against Charlotte Flair, who, love her or hate her, she's becoming the female version of HBK when it comes to WrestleMania. I would go as far to call her Mrs. WrestleMania.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting.
Charlotte Flair is obviously the biggest. Her and Becky Lynch, it's hard to choose between the two. Certainly Becky Lynch had her catapult up a couple of years ago, where she wasn't just the biggest women's wrestler. She was the biggest star in all of wrestling for a little while there, going into that WrestleMania main event match with these two. Charlotte, though, consistently is heel or babyface, one of your best performers, one of your biggest ticket sellers, and biggest stars in the company wide. Ronda Rousey obviously has that celebrity outside the wrestling business that she brings in with her. Do you think she sticks around after Mania? I assume so, right?
Well, yeah, because we all know Ronda is going over.
Yeah, that's what I assume here too. She's the babyface. I think she's going to go over.
I mean, she is, for all intent and purpose, the female Brock Lesnar. They backed up the Brinks truck to make her happy.
Assuming she sticks around, they're going to keep her whole. They're going to keep her strong. And I think they put her over here with Charlotte. And that can lead to some great matches, I think, going forward with Rousey and some other people. But
unify the women's championship. Maybe Becky goes over. You finally get that match between Becca and Ronda one-on-one. I mean,
maybe I'm actually, for all my talk about there being too many titles, I don't know if unifying the women's world championships is the right move just yet. But because I want now, if you build up the tag team titles, then it's time, because you can have plenty of your women in the tag team division with actual real tag teams, and you can still have some women up in the main event world title scene, or maybe unify the titles and then have a TPS title, a secondary title for the women, might be a better move. But yeah, I think Ronda Rousey goes over. You keep her strong. You do some fun stuff here, and that'll end it. So either way, whether they end with the KO show or they end with this match, we think they're ending night one with the fans happy. Face going over. All right. From there, we'll go into now. Before we go into Sunday, we'll throw the wild card in here, and we'll talk about Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes and what might happen, what we think will happen. What do you think happens with Cody Rhodes if he makes his debut here, and what happens with Seth Rollins? Do you think that match happens Saturday, Sunday?
But we all know it's going to happen Sunday. I think, what was it, 2016, April 3rd, 2016, AT&T Stadium was Cody Rhodes' last match with WWE at a WrestleMania. Now we're coming around full circle to April 3rd, 2022 from AT&T Stadium for a WrestleMania. If what we said doesn't happen, because like we said, there's still one more Raw before WrestleMania, never say never in the business. Maybe we get a little segment where it's just Seth Rollins hijacking TV time, bitching and complaining. And then all of a sudden, Cody's music hits, and here comes Homelander. I'll never not call him Homelander if he's wearing that shit.
Right. Yeah, I think the match, and you can certainly see the card is now we got the women's tag team match, 4-way tag team match. It looks like might be moving to Sunday. We'll see. But last I saw it was Saturday. Or maybe that's pre-show material. We'll see. But as of right now, Saturday's got the larger card. 7 matches on Saturday to just 5. Counting the KO show as a match, 7 on Saturday to 5 on Sunday. So I certainly think any sort of Rollins-Cody Rhodes match happens Sunday. Do you think there's any possibility, whether we tease it tomorrow night on Raw or not, do you think there's a possibility if they don't mention Cody Rhodes tomorrow night, do you think maybe on Saturday Seth Rollins is causing some kind of ruckus, trying to get on the show or whatever they might do in the story with Rollins, and then here's Cody Rhodes and he makes his appearance on Saturday, and then they announce tomorrow Seth Rollins versus Cody Rhodes? Do you think that's a possibility?
That is a possibility. However, unfortunately, if you don't have that aspect tomorrow night on Raw of holy hell, Cody Rhodes is back, he's back in the WWE, and you don't make any mention that there could be something between them at WrestleMania, then I just expect it's going to be a run and pop, get the crowd hyped, get the crowd live, heading into the next match that maybe they don't have a lot of confidence in, to get the crowd as hype. Kind of a little fuel to the fire.
Maybe.
Because we could also be looking way too much into this, because you got to think of the caliber of matches that they have going on Sunday night. Maybe they want to give those a little bit more time.
Maybe. I mean, we'll see. I mean, that's certainly possible. And speaking of the caliber of matches we have, a really great match that I think will take place. The first one we'll talk about for Sunday. Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. What do you think about this one?
I'm not excited for it. No, let me take that back. I am and I'm not, because like I said before, I thought we were heading towards the Intercontinental Championship match involving Johnny Knoxville, and I'm fortunate that's not the case. Now, do I think that this match has some sort of potential to be awesome? Johnny Knoxville has been beating the shit out of himself for 30 plus years at this point on Jackass.
You know there's going to be some sort of stunt for sure.
Oh yeah, there's going to be some sort of crazy spot that's going to take everybody's breath away. And now that we don't have Shane McMahon to jump off a Hell in a Cell every WrestleMania, this could be a nice little replacement. But yeah, it's not going to be clean. It's not going to be nice. And
nothing. Yeah, it's one of those. Here's your WrestleMania, celebrity, and it's
By
a match.
the way, hats off to Sami Zayn, man. If there is one person that's figured out how to hack into the WWE coding and just make the company his at every angle, who's statistically somebody who shouldn't even be with the company anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. Him and R-Truth, I think, are the two that they've hit this specific comedy character niche that's just pure WWE. They'll never be main event, but they've got a niche where they'll make money and they'll be a WWE lifer. So.
Oh yeah.
All right. So the next one we can talk about on Sunday is for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship match. I think it's further down here. RK Bro versus the Street Profits versus the Alpha Academy. Excuse me, Alpha Males. Alpha Academy, RK Bro, and the Street Profits for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Excited for this one?
Yes and no, because I think I know what's happening after this match is over.
You think this is when the turn's going to happen?
I truly believe this is when the turn happens.
Do you really think it's Randy's going to turn on Riddle? Or do you think it could be the other way around? To fuck with expectations? Because everyone's like, oh yeah, eventually Randy's going to listen to the voices in his head, right? And turn on Matt Riddle. But
so I followed Matt Riddle from the UFC to the independents to now in WWE. And there's been like maybe a handful of times they tried to make Riddle a heel. And because he's such surfer bro, perma burn stoner, it just doesn't make any sense when he's a heel. And it never lasts very long.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it just has to be coming with Randy, hit him with the RKO when Alpha Academy inevitably goes over.
See, you saying that kind of cools my jets a little bit. I would really, because I haven't seen Riddle as a heel. If they could make that work, if he could turn heel on Randy and then put him over in the story over the next couple of months, put him over Randy, and he's this heel, and now he's hot. He's the one that broke up RK Bro, so he'll have all this heat, and he's able to convincingly play a good heel. That could catapult him up the card. I truly believe. But if you say he's not a believable heel,
not even close, man.
Then that's tough. Then yeah, maybe you just have to stick with Randy Orton doing the turn, or maybe you don't pull that trigger yet. I don't know if you pull it here.
I hope they don't. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Randy Orton fan, and this has been some of the most entertaining shit he's done in the last 10 years, maybe. I mean, this run he's having with Riddle right now, it's hilarious. Down to that little brief. There's a bag of weed on the table. You better share that shit with me. Like, they're actually letting Randy show his personality besides being like the apex predator, or the legend killer, or some kind of psycho.
Right. Well, so you think the turn happens here? Who do you think wins the match then? Do you think the Profits or the Alpha Academy? You think they're the ones that get the belts?
I think they do. I hope they do. To make something worth the while. I mean, think about poor Tucky getting sacrificed for this storyline to even happen and being released. You break up Heavy Machinery. Yeah. And then, of course, because of health issues, Gable's tag team partner, Kurt Angle's son, can't wrestle anymore. So now he's an agent backstage. Put these two predominantly tag team wrestlers together. They both have a similar background. They have a similar style. They are actually best friends in real life if you pay attention to their Instagram feeds. Yeah, it seems like the most logical choice. I mean, usually after WrestleMania season is when you start actually getting in the mixed match challenge season. I don't know if they're going to do it this year. There's rumblings here and there whether or not they are. Bianca Belair and her husband from the Street Profits, his name's escaping me right now, are most likely going to be involved in that. So that's going to take away from the tag team titles. So the only logical option is to have Randy turn on Riddle here, and Alpha Academy are your new tag team champions.
Well, how about this? I think there's a good chance RK Bro could. In fact, I'm going to officially predict them to win this match. But I think if you are going to break up RK Bro now, I don't think you do it at Mania. I think they lose this match, but they end Mania still together, and tomorrow night on Raw is when the breakup happens. Because if they don't end Mania still with the belts, then the breakup's going to happen really soon. Yeah. Even if it doesn't happen at Mania. And I would assume, hey, you need a big storyline and a big moment for Raw. This could be it. The breakup of RK Bro and Randy
Very
Orton
true.
finally turning on Riddle.
Oh, no. Hold on a second. If you do that, though, the Raw after WrestleMania is always synonymous with big debuts and big returns. And if, you break up something as big as RK Bro and how beloved they are, you're going to mar the return of Veer McMahon or Veer Man. Like, come on now. Give that guy a shot. He's finally coming, bearing like a flat tire or something.
We'll see if he actually shows up. He's the new Brodus Clay for sure. The next match on the card, Pat McAfee versus Austin Theory. This is one I just love Pat McAfee. Are you excited for this? Do you expect anything with Vince McMahon to come out and take part in this at all? Or
I think in the ending,
yeah,
I think Pat goes over, and I think Vince
think
is going to
so?
come out. Oh yeah, because I don't know if you've seen him actually wrestle before or not, but he's done a few independent things before he got mixed up with WWE. And his match against Adam Cole was actually phenomenal, way better than I
never did watch it. I've seen clips of things, but I've never watched one of his matches all the way through. Yeah,
definitely worth going back to watch him versus Adam Cole.
I've always wanted to. I just never did. Yeah.
And so yeah, I think Pat's going over. I think Vince comes out and gives the old slap in the face to Austin Theory, the kind of disappointed father figure angle, and that's how that's going to end. Pretty soon Austin Theory is going to have a redemption story.
If that's the extent of Vince McMahon's appearance with this match, I'm fine with that. Otherwise, I really don't want him to get involved at all.
Yeah.
I would rather him stay out of this. Just be between McAfee and Theory. But Theory has been fun to hate. McAfee, who was a heel in NXT, if I'm not mistaken, has been just fantastic in this little babyface role here. Still being kind of the douche, but being the lovable douche in this case, which he kind of is on his podcast.
Yeah, which, by the way, man, when you go back, you have to go back and watch it from video package to the end of the match, because when they go in and showing how well, not only did Adam Cole sell getting punted, not only did Triple H sell like hell that he was pissed off at Pat McAfee, but just the fluidness and how sure Pat McAfee was in throwing that kick. I mean, dude, Pat McAfee is beyond his years and talent-wise when it comes to actually professional wrestling. And Austin Theory, in my opinion, is the same way. So this is going to be a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one for sure. Probably not going to be very long. You don't want, because they're both obviously very, especially Pat McAfee, green. So you don't want to get them exposed. It'll be 10 minutes max. But yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in this one for sure. All right, we'll move on there to what could very well be the best wrestling match on the entire WrestleMania card, both nights. AJ Styles versus Edge. This is one I'm really excited to watch. What do you think about this?
This is going to be hands down the match of both nights of WrestleMania. I mean, Edge can still go. Everybody seems to forget AJ's not a young buck either. He can still go. No. There was a point in time, like I said earlier in the show, fantasy booking warfare, nerds everywhere are blowing their loads over this match. This is going to be something that, if given the time and if given the free reign of Edge and AJ Styles, is going to be something that's going to be memorable for years to come in the annals of WrestleMania history.
Yeah, one thing, when you brought up the age of AJ Styles, he is, and I'm looking up here, you can see me looking it up right now, he's 44, and I'm going to get you the age of Hollywood Hogan in 1996. Whoop. back to that. He was 43 in 1996. So Hollywood Hogan, when he created the NWO in 1996, he was younger than AJ Styles is now. Everyone thinks of Hogan as past his prime and old at that point. So that's just one of those crazy things. Like the WWF was putting out those, those Chuckster ads and all that, and talking about how, they're all old and we've got
Billionaire Ted's
Billionaire Ted, yep. And really, he wasn't even that old at the time compared to, and Edge. How old is Edge? Like, he's
knocking on 50.
48. So.
God damn, I wish I was that age. 48. Holy fuck.
Right? I mean, that's just absolutely insane. Beth Phoenix, 41. Wow, she looks good for 41.
Yeah.
But, it's really nuts when you think back to the ages of these people and how they compare to the ages of other people you thought were old at the time. But, this match... Go ahead.
There isn't one person out there saying that AJ Styles is past his prime or can't go anymore, or he's a relic from a forgotten era of wrestling. It just goes to show you the incredible talent that both of these two still possess, being the ages in which they are.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. This match. Who do you think goes over in this match? You think it's because really neither one of them need to go over. So this is a complete wash, in my opinion. I have no idea.
All right, so you have AJ, who is pretty firmly cemented, I believe, at this point. He's not Bullet Club AJ. He's not New Japan AJ. He's not TNA AJ. This is WWE guy for life, AJ Styles.
The phenomenal AJ Styles. He's very much, yeah.
All right. And now you have Edge, who... new theme song, new feeling to him.
Turn heel, going on this heel run here, but trying to be a very different heel from classic rated R superstar heel Edge.
I think you gotta give it to Edge. I think he has to come up with something very diabolical to get the win, and it's going to further the story of him almost as like leading into like a weird, like Jim Jones cult leader kind of vibe that they have going with him.
Certainly a very intense, yes.
Yes. So they're going to have to do something to get him over as being diabolical while having him be the unanimous winner of this match. I got to give it to Edge.
If assuming Edge is going to stick around for a little while, obviously they're going to go with this character. In that case, I do think Edge will go over here to keep that character hot. And this new version of that character, for sure. That's my prediction, and it will be Edge winning here. All right, and from there we go to the main event of all of WrestleMania. Match that certainly got me excited. Title unification match. Fingers crossed it stays that way. WWE Champion Brock Lesnar versus Universal Champion Roman Reigns. Whew. This is going to be fun. What do you think?
Man, this is the first time in recent memory that... All right, let me just backtrack this for a second. You remember about 5-6 years ago, you had everybody bitching that it was always Brock and Roman in every main event. Give us a break. Don't shove them down our throats. Give them the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega kind of come back when we miss you kind of deal. Right? And now I'm sitting here pining and lamenting and just super excited to see Brock versus Roman Reigns in the main event of WrestleMania. This is the kind of storytelling that I want from WWE that we know they're capable of giving us. With that said, there are so many different ways, so many different stories that this could potentially go that I can't pick a winner.
Yeah. I mean, I said it earlier, I think the Bloodline ends up on top. I think that's the Usos, and I think that's this match. I think Roman Reigns ends up on top, and you continue this run as this fantastic heel that he's having. But that being said, especially when Brock Lesnar is involved, it's a fool's errand to really predict anything with Lesnar. So it could go either way for sure.
You can see where I'm coming from with this is you're going to have the bloodline going as hot as ever if they retain all 3 titles. And then, there's Siloa down in NXT. Potential come up, join the bloodline. He's one of Roman's cousins. He's of the Anoa'i family.
Right, yeah.
But at the same time, too, you have the storyline of, like I said, Drew McIntyre's going to be near the top of the card. Have him get some comeuppance on Brock, or, God willing, Big E comes back and he can go over on Brock maybe down the line. But I think you're right. I think it's probably going to be the bloodline, even though it kills me to pick one. I think it's going to be the bloodline ends up on top of the night as well. Gotta give it to Roman.
Yeah. The only thing I will say, because you talked about the storytelling, I think it ended up just stretched out a little too much. We've still got yet another Raw and SmackDown to go. And I've already been kind of bored the last couple of weeks with their feud. Like, I just want to get to the match already, and it's starting to kind of wear thin. Like, the whole, like, they, where Brock's just coming in and, tearing apart their car and chasing them around. And then this week again, doing kind of the same thing, tearing apart the Roman's truck. Yeah, none of that was great for me. It didn't help so much with the build. I think they're just kind of stretching time to get to the match at this point. We'll see what happens tomorrow night and Friday night. I'm sure Friday night something big will happen. I don't know if we'll see too much from these two on Raw. They haven't been doing a whole lot on Raw. It's been on SmackDown for these two. So, but it hasn't tempered my excitement for this match in the least. And I don't think it has for anyone else either. They don't need to put on some special great story at this point for the last couple of shows for the go home show. It just needs to be, hey, these two monsters are about to fucking fight, and you get to watch on Sunday.
Build it up, throw it back to the 80s, early 90s. Let's have a big old house battle between these two.
Right.
And, because like you said, it doesn't need to be flashy. It doesn't need to be fancy. We know who both these guys are. There's nothing flashy about Roman. He goes in there with the Superman punch, and that's his flashiest move by far. But these are two dudes that go in there and just beat each other's ass and let them do it to each other.
Yeah. All right. Looking forward to this. I'm looking forward to seeing you on Sunday for these live streams, Tony. That'll do it for the show. Any last words?
No, sir. Just looking forward to WrestleMania this weekend.
Yeah, I really can't wait. I'm looking forward. 7 o'clock. Remember, 7 o'clock.
7 o'clock.
We're going to start live streaming on Saturday, and we'll do the same thing on Sunday. And maybe we'll have a few surprises for the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment. Let us know what you think down below. See you guys next week.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game, win it life, have no shame, there's no time, feel the pain, live the grind, I could change, in my mind, pick a lane, commit and climb, the only way to win it life, I never miss, that's fact, taking big swings, bitch, hand me the bat, put me in the ring, you'll go out in a bag, cause I sing what I mean and I bring it to